Welcome to DRN1 Life radio station for the Tracey Lee Cook Show, Australia's #1 indie radio station. Coming to you from Perth, Western Australia. Download our DRN1 app for all of your indie music, special guests, competitions, podcasts, and show links. And we're soon available on Apple TV. We would love to hear some feedback, so make sure you subscribe, like, and comment so we can do more of what you ask for. And in today's show, we have a very special guest coming to us from South Australia, Ria Mestiza. Ria Mestiza, and she's in the health and wellness space. She is absolutely amazing. She's a holistic coach, so she can offer you so much value today. The light bulbs are going to be going off, and she has a relentless desire to grow in all areas of life and dedicated to sculpting the absolute strength out of whom she works with. There's digital courses coming. She has a very strong online presence. She is a speaker, businesswoman, adventure-seeking optimist. I like that. I want to hear more about that. And underestimated strong human. And I'm absolutely delighted to bring her to you today. So thank you very much for joining us, Ria. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracey. It's my absolute pleasure. I have to say, I've never had anyone mess up my first name before. Congratulations.
And I was practicing it.
No,
Everyone knows I'm known for my non-pronunciation of people's names. I don't know why. But no, I really do appreciate you here. And I know that you're having a big impact in the health and wellness space, especially being a holistic coach. I would love to know more about that. I know our audience has probably heard the word holistic, not quite sure kind of what it is perhaps, or have tried holistic kind of methods and maybe not had much success. So please take the floor and let us get to know you.
Sure thing. Well, with holistic, it is definitely one of those words that get thrown around and overused. You know, I'm sure you probably feel the same way. So I was like, I don't like using it, but at the same time, I truly embody what it means, truly. And holistic really means it's a whole approach to health and wellness and well-being. And I really feel that that's the kind of practitioner and coach that I am, because whenever anyone comes to me, it's not just like, all right, here's this plan and off we go. Here's the plan. Here's your training. Go kill it now. Like it's really, you can download that on the internet nowadays. That's kind of stuff, that one size fits all approach is there for everyone. What I like to do and what I take pride in, what I can bring to people is the fact that I can tailor it to the individual and their exact needs. And it's everything. It's the mindset. You know, why are they coming to me in the first place with oh, Ria, I really want to lose some weight. I said, that's great, but why is that? You know, and then establishing the groundwork that we need to do. It's not just like, oh, I heard this diet works really well, so we're going to give it a try on you and see how that goes. Okay, Tracey? And it's like, well, no, the testing that I do, and especially when I get to work in person with people, allows me to really ask their body, you know, on a kinesiology level. I ask the body directly, does she need more of XYZ, yes or no? So it really takes the guesswork out of the game. And then with the training, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I'm training myself for almost 20 plus years now. What I see when I see a body is every moving part and anything out of place. I'm like, all right, we need to work on these parts, because I want to bring your foundation to a level where not only is your posture in a better position, you're structurally in a better position, but now you no longer have weaker bits that are pointing you this way or that way. Like when you're in a correct position, you feel better, you look better, and you're actually just a healthier person overall. So I look at absolutely everything. The testing that I do leaves no stone uncovered. And we dive deep into the mindset, into everything that can help that person get to where they want to be. So,
and it's one of the biggest things that I've encountered, and you might have encountered this as well. I'd love your ideas around this. Is a lot, like you said, a lot of people come to you and they say, oh, I just want to lose weight. but they don't actually realize there's so many elements to that. And then they start to get a little bit overwhelmed sometimes with how much is involved with like just losing weight. So is that something that you find common as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you'll agree that a lot of people don't even take that first step because they're so overwhelmed and scared, because they just assume that that next step is just, no, it's too hard. I can't do that. I'll need to give up things. And I don't want to, I like my food. I like eating people always say to me, I like food, Ria. And I was like, I love food too, but you and I have a different idea of what food is. That's all. Right. So I actually congratulate people for taking that first step in contacting me, because that's a big step. That's a courageous step. And then when we meet, we uncover their real reason for being there, because you and I both know it's not just, I need to lose weight. It's something's triggered that for them. Something has occurred in their life that has prompted immediate action for them to be like, I need to change.
Definitely. And I know myself, there's a funny aspect to this as well. So if my family sees me eating chocolate, even my 14-year-old daughter says, are you eating your feelings again, Mum? So yeah, that's kind of another level kind of relationship with eating. But I really like the way you're making it just such an individual approach and getting to the core of potentially what's holding them back as well. So so when you're going through with your clients and you're coaching them, what are the biggest areas do you think that most people find more commonly the biggest problem?
Wow. Their biggest, the biggest problem that I'm coming across?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, there's just so many things.
There's nothing quite in particular that stands out, or something that everybody says, something like a commonality?
Well, everyone says they're there to lose weight, or I just want to be fit and healthy. Great. What does fit and healthy look like and feel like to you? And then that sort, again, that's that diving in process. I mean, I just had this girl the other day I met, and she came in with the I just want to be fit and healthy. I just want to lose some weight, know what I'm doing, know how to eat, and get some answers. And I said, great. And then as we sort of dove deeper, it came out, well, she wants to have more confidence in herself. And I said, well, that's great. So that's a common one. People don't have a lot of confidence in themselves nowadays, male or female. So I won't generalize there, but a lot of people lacking confidence in themselves on many levels, not even just in appearance and things like that. And I'm like, okay, great. So confidence, right? And areas in particular that you want to improve on. And she's like, oh, everything. Like, she's like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't hate my legs. I hate this. I hate this. I don't like this. And I was like, okay, all right. So it sounds to me that you don't like anything on yourself. So what is there anything that you do love? What do you love about yourself? And she's like, nothing really. Like, I just really hate like my arms and I hate all this. And I was like, so you haven't answered the question. I said, what do you love about yourself? And she just sat back and her whole demeanor just changed. And she said, I don't love anything. And as she eyes welted up, and even now as I'm reliving that, my eyes are welting up, and her and I were both just tearing up. And she's like, I don't even know why I'm crying. Like, she's like, I just don't like anything about myself. And I was like, I said, I'm tearing up with you right now, because that's not what I see when I look at you. Like, that saddens me so much. And they're wiping tears, like, oh, she's like, I can't believe I'm crying. And I said, look, this is real. You're in obviously, like, I'm not gonna, I mean, well, I'm sharing this on a radio show, but you don't know who she is. But it's a common thing that happens, especially with young girls. They, young women that they're still growing into who they are, and they're not sure who they are, and acceptance and all these sorts of things are going through at that stage of life. And I said, I understand what you're going through. And I do, because we've been there. And I said, you're in the right place. So.
And isn't it just so transformational that after one or two questions, you can just get to the core so quickly with some people, because they're just open and they're just ready to change and they're ready for that transformation, and they just needed somebody just to simply listen to them and ask them the hard questions, ask them, you know, all the difficult questions that they, like you said, she was avoiding answering the question. So it's, you know, the world's a better place with definitely people like you in that space to be able to bring out, you know, the breakdown before the breakthrough, because that's when your mindset changes, then that's where your transformation and your growth and change happens. So that's fantastic. Please tell us more about what you do, how you do it, everything.
I mean, I listen to why they're really there, what they're trying to tell me, really. You know, I'm not a superficial person. You know, I really like to have deep and meaningful conversations. So when they're there, they learn pretty quickly that they're not going to just get away with the surface response of, yeah, everything's fine, everything's great, you know. And I'm like, cool, and tell me more, you know. And so I love getting to know people, and I think that they know that too. You know, I want them to feel like they're in a safe place, and that I'm really there to, you know, care for them and help them in every way I can. That's the biggest thing I try to do, is support people in every which way I can. And that's why I've armored myself with so much knowledge and skills, so that I can better help people. That is my whole driver. You know, I mean, obviously the selfish part of that is I get to know lots more stuff, and I love that, because I love learning. Like, my thirst for knowledge is just crazy. But
love that.
I know that the more I learn, the more I can help, the more I can serve. So that when someone comes to me and they're giving me that brick wall, which, you know, behind me, I've got a brick wall, if you can't see it or not, but if they give me the brick wall, I try to help peer over that and be like, hey, what's going on? Hey, how can I help? You know, and then sort of bring that wall down. And that helps them, because like you said, I guess one of the biggest problems is people don't want to be vulnerable enough to share their true inner desires. Because once I know that, that's how I know how I can help. You know, do they have is there a health reason why they're there? Because some people come to see me, you know, like I've got clients that have, you know, brain issues, injuries, and have had broken hips from car accidents, or blind, or like there's so many diverse cases that I'm so blessed to be able to help people with. It's just a matter of, what is it do they need? It's not, there's no blanket response, really.
Yeah,
so
it's not cookie cutter. It's so well designed. I love that, because I think, like you said at the beginning, you know, everyone, it's not just a one size fits all. It's not a cookie cutter. And the whole health and wellness space so needs to have such a one-on-one personalized interaction to be able to get people results, to be able to grow and develop more ourselves as coaches and trainers and things like that. Because that is definitely, and I loved it when you said serving at another level. That is definitely how you serve, and not just put money in your cash register. There is a complete difference to being able to coach and train than just run a health and wellness business. And I really make that obvious in a lot of my broadcasts, and a lot of people have challenged me on that, but I feel really passionately that that is the way of the future. And it has been happening for quite a few years in the health and wellness space, but I really promote the education around that. And so many people I've pointed out that point of difference to, and they've gone, oh yeah, that's true. It's one of those things that's so obvious until somebody says it, then they don't actually understand it. So creating education around people like you in such a higher profile coaching space to be able to interact one-on-one and really get to the needs of the client, number one, I just think is so, that's where the transformation happens, and that is the way of the future, and more people need to get on board with that. And I firmly believe that. And I've had conversations around that and been challenged with that, and I'm more than willing to have conversations around that, because this, especially on the tail end of 2020, right, in a coaching space, we need to get to the core, because people who they were a year ago aren't like that anymore. No matter what your circumstances are, the world has gone a little bit woo-woo cuckoo, and we've all had a takeaway from that. So now it's time to revisit that and get back into those transformations of good and uplifting and being the reason for change. Now, I know that you personally went on a bit of a health and wellness journey as well. Would you mind sharing a snippet of that with our audience?
Yeah, the biggest, I mean, I've been through quite a few, but the biggest one was obviously nearly dying from just eating out with my friends one night. We were just out for dinner, and I had an anaphylactic reaction to the meal. And I actually didn't know, I didn't realize, because having said that, back then, I'd get sort of anxiety here and there. So sometimes when it felt like my breathing was accelerating, I thought it must have been, stress or anxiety. But yeah, when your lip is swollen and you haven't done anything to make it that way, and your tongue and everything, all of the symptoms were there. It's pretty darn scary. So that yeah, I mean, that's not how I wanted to go. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
when
for sure.
overcoming that first experience with that reaction, I if you can just imagine, me almost drowning with my arm up in the air going, I'm not going down like this, I'm going down. I love food don't kill me. And so it began a journey of trying to figure out what the hell, why? And because, so this was back in 2018 now, and I'd already been in this industry for quite some time. They were 7 years or so. So I considered myself already a fit and healthy person. I knew how to eat well. I wasn't out eating junk food. I was having fish and chips, actually. So on a Friday night with some friends down the beach. And that's not to be expected. And nor is the fact that I somehow survived not going to the emergency room, because I'm stubborn. So don't ever do that. If anything, if you, please, if you ever have any of those symptoms, go straight to the emergency room, because thank goodness, my angels were watching me that night, and I was able to breathe myself through. Obviously, I took antihistamine tablets, and then very, very later established on my own accord that it was a histamine intolerance. It was histamine sparked, because when I went to go see an allergist doctor, we only got about 3 here in South Australia, and I was on a waiting list for 6 months, and I kept going back to the doctor saying, I don't know what's going wrong with me. I'm scared, because I'm scared that I'm going to just eat something and die. And he's like, well, when's your appointment? And I'm like, in 6 months. And so I said, can I get an EpiPen? And he's like, well, no, we can't give you one, because you've had history of anxiety. If, you just, and I said, well, look, I understand your concern, but can you understand also that if I eat something and die, then what's worse? And so we're just going back and forth. So he managed to get me in a matter of urgency in a couple of weeks from that time. And this doctor was sadly it was useless. The thing that served me was when he was making me go through the exercise of listing off all of the foods that caused any sort of stimulation, any sort of reaction at all. And I started listing them. And then I made a connection, but this was only when I left his office. But whilst I was there, so we did this, and then he took me into another room, left me with a nurse, and she was doing the skin prick test, as they do. They're testing all the foods. And I this massive welt just came straight up on my arm. And I said, I really feel too good. I didn't even notice the welt straight away, but I said, I don't really feel too good. And she goes, oh, do you want to lay down? I said, oh, probably. And I stood up and almost fell over. And so she tested my blood pressure, and it must have been so low, she ran out of the room to go get the doctor. But much to my horror, he comes strutting in. Oh, it's normally only the big boys that do this. And I just looked at him, and because I was at this stage shivering. I was having a reaction. So again, shivering is also another symptom. And I was shivering, and I couldn't really talk. And so he thought I was scared. I'm like, scared of a little skin. Are you kidding me? Like, you've done a few pricks up my arm. I couldn't care less. I said, I care more about how I'm currently feeling, and the fact that you don't care is a big concern. And so he told the nurse I was fine, she'll be fine. Continue down my other arm, by the way, with more tests.
Wow.
And then I had to breathe myself to come to, and I, got myself there, took another antihistamine. And then he goes, oh, doctor wants to see you again. And I go in his office, and he says, Ria, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And I was like, well, that's not what I just felt about 5 minutes ago. And he's like, oh, look. And I said, well, and that welt on my arm, what's the welt on my arm? What was that from? And he goes, oh, that's from histamine. And I said, right. I said, well, what can we do about that? And he goes, oh, you just pop a Zyrtec. You'll be fine. Just take one every day. I was like, for the rest of my life, you want me to take one every day? He goes, yeah, you'll be fine. No problems. He goes, and gluten, you don't worry about having to like eliminate that, because I don't even know why you do that. Because there's no proof gluten's any problem with you. I'm like, right. I was absolutely just floored with this. I'm like, so this guy, he's working with sick people, telling them that they're absolutely fine. Go off into the world. You'll be okay. So I left there, and I'm driving, and I'm just bamboozled. And I'm thinking, well, hang on. What do all those foods have in common that I was listing? I literally pull over, and I'm looking, and I'm like, well, they're all histamine releasing foods. Huh. Maybe if I avoid eating these foods, and the other aha moment was that was 95% of my intake was histamine releasing foods, because even though that may sound scary, they're all your healthy foods. Yeah. Absolutely perfectly fine. Fruit, vegetables, meat, all the clean stuff you could imagine. 95% of the food I was eating. Okay, so I really got to turn my diet, the quote, use that loosely, on its head and completely change how I've been eating. Okay, so I did that. Yep. Funnily enough, I felt better. Ta-da! But that was just the beginning for me, because that triggered me. I literally went and enrolled in my Bachelor of Health Science to become a naturopath, because I was just like, I need to put myself more out there so that people that have been going through what I've been going through can have someone like me to come to, instead of this guy who's just going to just be like, you're fine. It's all in your head. You're being silly. Off you go.
Well, so it's negligence. It's pure negligence, isn't it? And, I think, they say doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals, and they've got one of the hardest, jobs on earth, but they can suffer from compassion fatigue, where they just don't care anymore. But that sounds just like pure negligence. And it's concerning, because you hear so many stories like this, and how the amount of people that would have gone in there and really listened to that doctor and said, oh no, my doctor says I'm fine. I've just recently left a position in disability services, and their doctor has told them they can't do something, and their family has told them, and their friend has told them, and all these professionals have told them they can't do something, and then all of a sudden they come along with somebody who asks the questions like you do, breaks it down, gets to the core, and go, well, actually, I think you can do this with a little bit of help. And they go, what really? And then you work with them, and they finally do it. And I say, now you need to go back to your doctor and say, I actually can do this. So just from a background of listening to so many stories like that, Ria, it's unfortunate that this still goes on, that they've got so much compassion fatigue, they're not taking the time. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's people like you in the coaching space and health and wellness space that is actually making the change and saving lives and changing lives because of the amount of people. And this is not taking away in any respect to the people that are doing the right thing in the medical space at all. A true respect there, but there's so many stories like this, and it's alarming and it's concerning. And these vulnerable people that are going in there and don't have the courage to question or ask questions and just accept the doctor's final word and not question it is alarming. It's alarming in the health and wellness space. So good for you to sorting that out yourself, because that's to be admired. And if anybody's listening and they've gone to the doctor and it doesn't quite feel right, then you need to question it or go and get a second opinion or go and see Ria.
Ask questions. Yeah, ask questions. You know, I mean, for me, Tracey, it was life or death, because I was really scared that like I was just going to die. You know, we take this thing called air and breathing for granted until it's difficult. And I had to learn, you know. And the beautiful thing is, because of other health things that had happened in the past, I just took it on my shoulders, and I just went, I know that this now is my next test, that I need to work this out so that I can better help other people that are going through the same thing. And that's exactly what's happened since then, you know. And I've had people who have ironically seen this same doctor, been told they were totally fine, and then I test them and I was like, well, actually, you probably shouldn't eat this and this because this doesn't work well with your body. And they're just like, oh, that's so interesting. But I've had the allergy test before, and I've had these, and they said it was fine. And I was like, yeah, but it's not specific enough. It's you know, and yeah, it's the beauty of diving deep. But it's if you don't search for the answers. I mean, answers are the question. Like, questions are the answer. If you don't search, you'll never know. And you
like that. Questions are the answer. I like that.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend to people that if it's not quite sitting right, the advice that they're getting? Some people, like you said, comes back to confidence. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to speak up. They don't know whether they should. They don't know if they're kind of confident enough to question a doctor. What advice would you give for people like that?
You deserve the right to get a second opinion. You deserve the right to get a second opinion. You know, and just to touch upon what I'd went through, 10 years ago, I was diagnosed to have, because I was a fit person and they didn't quite know what was wrong with me. So they went, oh, well, it must be a hernia. You've got a hernia. And then I was like, a hernia? Okay. And then the next doctor is like, no, you've got PCOS. It's PCOS. That's what it is. And then the next surgeon, like I see that it was like, no, you need hip surgery. It's a tear in your hip. You need surgery. So just to put it into perspective, if I had, you know, I mean, obviously I listened to the first doctor. He told me I had a hernia. So I stopped training.
Yeah.
Because I was in a lot of pain back then. PCOS. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's serious. I better, look more into that. Then I saw the next specialist. Oh, no, it's definitely a tear in your hip. Yeah, we'll need to repair that. And
what did it end up being?
None of the above.
Yeah.
None of the freaking above. Like, I was like, oh, man. I thanks again, like to just how things happen, divine intervention, call it what you like. But I one of my clients who had her retired husband was a remedial therapist, and she'd told him, she's like, oh, I'm so worried about Ria. Like, this is happening. They reckon now she needs surgery.
Yeah.
And then he just went, no, that's rubbish. She doesn't need surgery. He goes, I'll fix her. And when someone confidently says that I'll fix you, gives you confidence.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, let's see what you can do. And he did. He fixed me. So structurally, there were things there, and then this is going back to the spine and the structure. that I had a twist in my hip that was pushing on some reproductive nerves, which was causing all of the grief that was happening in that groin region. They just couldn't pinpoint it. They just thought because they had found an ovarian cyst on my ovary, they just thought, well, it's PCOS. That's what it is. And it's likely to happen again, and I'm like, oh, okay. But then once we sort of got my hip in the right position, problem solved, right? Like, thank goodness, knock on wood right now, but like, I don't have that. But I had interims there where I was having ovarian cyst bursts every 3 months, and it's excruciatingly painful, I was limping around for a very, very long time. But yeah, just trying to find the answers, because I was like determined that this is not the life that I was going to live.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, especially as women, we just kind of like, oh, that's what I've got, and I just have to learn to live with it. We kind of take it on like martyrs sometimes as well, don't we? It's, or sometimes for some personalities, it's like a badge of honor as well, because they've got something to talk about. They've got, some sympathy, or they've got some attention. So there's a whole lot of underlying mindset and mental health issues around that as well. So I really hope this is helping the audience today to understand kind of maybe what are some triggers, what are some real fine points, what are some questions you need to re-ask, what's some research you need to go and do. But please don't go down the total Google doctor rabbit hole like some people do, because you may come in looking for a headache and you're going out with toe cancer or something.
Oh yeah, I'm dying.
Do not self-diagnose too much. But if you're out there and you're listening to Ria's story, these are real things that are happening, and you need to question if something's not sitting right with you. And I'm really fascinated. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about being in like structural alignment? I don't know too much about that area, but I'm absolutely intrigued if you could share some info about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to be honest, actually, if that answers your first question, what's the biggest problem? Biggest problem I see is that people are out of whack, physically out of whack. They come in, one shoulder's higher than the other, their hips are twisted, their neck is protruding forward and down because, phones, lower back problems. Like, there's not a perfect straight spine out there. I think that would be like striking gold if there was someone that walked in and they're absolutely in perfect form. It just does not exist nowadays. I'm, as a remedial therapist, my youngest patients are like 10 and 12. So I've got clients now who are sending their children to come see me with lower back pain, which is just blowing my mind, because, when I was that age, I had sport injuries, or things like I just did something different, and wrong and awkward, and I just kind of hurt myself, and it wasn't really a big deal. You just brush it off, keep going. But now I'm really starting to see like hunchbacks and all sorts of things. And if you just think about, where our vital organs live, for example, and the posture of being forward and hunched, and how much pressure that actually puts on our vital organs to do their thing, to breathe, to breathe. So whereas our diaphragm in that lower abdomen, like in the upper abdominal lower rib cage region, and people don't breathe from there. When I tell them to take a deep breath, they take this shallow thing from up on top of their chest and they go, and I'm like, that's your deep breath. That's all you got. And they're like, and I'm like, that it's shocking. People don't know how to breathe nowadays. Really, truly don't. And they breathe through their mouth. They don't know how to breathe through their sinuses. They don't know what a diaphragm is. And so I guess apart from the aesthetic part, which is obviously if you are upright, your shoulders back where they need to be, you're going to have a healthier body, right? But I think it not being in the right alignment is really part of the deterioration process. For me, having that push forward, that was pushing on reproductive nerves, which could have really thrown me out of whack, in a really bad way. Like, I mean, it was already a bad situation to be in, But that had accumulated over how long? Because what are we told to do? We sit like ladies. So we cross our legs, right? So, you know,
which
and
is
then
the worst thing you can do. Yeah.
Sit like a lady. And
Yeah.
it's like, and then, you know, you couple that with my dancing and martial arts background. And then it's like, well, I don't really know how the twisted hip happened, but it happened somewhere along the way. And it probably was sitting like a lady. Simple as that.
Yep. Yeah.
So for nowadays, it's more because we sit too much. We sit all the time. We sit everywhere. And then we've got these phones and like, and computers and whatnot, and everything's in a lower, and we're looking down all the time. And I catch myself too. And I'm like, oh, stop. Because then you can feel pain in the back of your neck, and then you get headaches. And so it really is a deterioration of not only health, but your enjoyment of life. Because if you're constantly getting headaches, which is very common too, because everyone's walking around with headaches, and then they're popping pills to like cure the headache because they can't survive with these headaches, so I have to take something for the headaches, and that's the only way I can survive and work, and I must work 12 hours a day now because I've got deadlines because there's so many things to do. And it's such a whirlwind.
It just goes around in a cycle.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're not going to actually break the cycle, because if things don't change, you know, things don't change. So to recognize the root cause and then attack what that is, because popping the tablets for the headaches are only going to last you so long before they're not working anymore. And I know even when our daughter was really, really little, I think she was about 4 months old, to be honest, we took her to a chiropractor and got her aligned, and people were horrified. Our family was horrified. You know, it's like, you can't do that to a baby's spine. And I said, she had a traumatic birth. She's got this, she's got that. And literally within 2 months of having spinal alignment, this is my extent of knowledge of alignment, she was fine. She was feeding properly. She was sleeping better. Yeah. You could just see the way she postured herself. And this was like a 4 and 6 months old. You could see it. And people were horrified because it's out of the norm. It's out of the social conditioning. It's, you know, not recommended. Just go to the chemist and buy some drops. And I didn't want to take that route. I didn't want to, you know, be dependent on that. And it didn't make sense. And I did try that and it didn't work. Yeah. So let's have a look at the root cause, and let's look at some almost alternative, so people still call it, methods to be able to address the problem. And it worked. Now, is it for everyone? You know, yes. I say yes. Yeah. And, you know, I've got prolapsed organs from a hysterectomy and mesh complication. So the body work that I've been doing, and I really like, Ria, I like it so much that you mentioned breath. Because I was guilty of that myself. I'd be breathing from my chest, not my belly. Yeah,
me too, definitely.
And it opens up your pineal gland. And it's just breath work. You know, we learn it in meditation and all the rest of it. And I think a lot more people, especially the tail end of 2020, being at home, anxiety and depression, they're not as active as much. They are looking for these kind of solutions now. It's created awareness that these solutions are out there. That's a key word, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's probably one thing I missed in the details is, so the remedial guy who fixed me, he said, there's just something that I can't quite get, because I want you to go see my chiro. And I was like, oh, well, I've never gone to see one before. But I said, look, I trust you. You know, you got me to this point. Of course, I'll do whatever you say. And I did. And then who was able to just establish that I had the twisted hip, because he did this x-ray. He looked at it, you know, and they get so specific with it as well. They can see, well, this is 2 centimeters this way, and then this is like really, you know, and I guess people remember the horror stories. People always remember the bad stories. They don't remember the good stories. We can talk good stories right now, but what people will mostly remember is like, oh, did you hear about what happened there? That was really bad, wasn't it? But that was truly helpful to put myself in the correct alignment, and like for yourself and for your daughter. And it's like being in the correct alignment is so crucial, so crucial for health and life. But yeah, a lot of people don't believe in it. But the thing is, in every space, there are poor practitioners. We'll just call them poor practitioners in every realm. They're good and they're bad. That's just how it always is. There's always good and bad of everything. The yin and yang, there's always the opposite and there's the opposing. It's just how it is. So don't always think that just because you've come across one bad one that you won't, there isn't a good one out there waiting for you to come find them.
Mm-hmm. Or I think sometimes people use other people's bad stories. And as a coach, you would definitely relate to this. When you actually give them a good story alternative, they just find it so hard to believe. It's like, yeah, but I had a friend that blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, well, I had a friend that blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, like they don't know what to do with that information. And that's okay because it's about education.
Yep.
And once they actually start switching their thinking, I love it when you actually see them kind of go from glazed over to kind of questioning things. You know, we need to question things, and we need to create education and awareness into questioning things. And it is okay to ask questions. And if you're only going to go and look for the negative, then guess what? The universe is just going to give you negative stuff. If you go and look for positive and just, you know what, just be open to accepting that positive things can happen. It's a total mind changer, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you see your clients and you can see them stepping into a more positive mindset, how does that feel? How does that look in your holistic space?
I love it. It's one of my favorite parts. It's a hope that I see in their eyes. It's that new lease on life. You know, a lot of the people that have come find me had already given up hope for years. I've been trying for years to find someone that could help me, and everyone said they couldn't help me, or they said they could, but they didn't, and I'm not better. And then if I am the reason that they're able to have that hope or to feel any real benefit of progress, that makes me so happy. It just does, you know. And yeah, like, because people are too quick to say, oh, no, there's a lot of knees, let's just say, for example. Like, I've been seeing a lot of women of all ages, but particularly older women who they've been told that their knees are at the point of destruction. You know, our next step is just surgery. There's just no chance for you, you know. And to the point where I'm horrified that one of my clients is still seeing a physio who says, you know, I don't know why you're bothering to train, I don't know why you're bothering to try to exercise and stretch your knee. He goes, I don't see the point. Like, I go, it's surgery. The surgery is the next step. That's all that you know, and it'll get better after that. And she was just like, well, no, I'm going to try to do these things to try to help my knee. I'm not just going to give up and just, you know, do like, you don't want to have, I get that's it, for them. It's like, it's just another surgery, but it has so much effect on the body. Every time you have a surgery, the recovery time is not just the superficial, your wounds will be healed in this amount of time. It's the traumatic effect energetically on your body, you know, on so many levels, the time off you've had to take, the time it will take to be able to walk around again. And oh man, it just goes on and on. So, you know, if I can avoid people having to go down that path, just lights me up.
I so much agree with that, because people are so quick to just have the surgery. I've been told myself, I had a sarcoma in my knee, and they removed it. Now, each surgery, I mean, I was on crutches for 6 or 8 weeks or something, but just the psychosis and the psychological trauma surgery at even day surgery. Oh, it's just day surgery. Yeah, but it's still surgery and it's still a trauma. And when we have a surgery, the neurological pathways in our brains associate any kind of surgery with trauma. And therefore, the neurological pathways in our mind will reprogram. And a lot of people don't know this, and it's not common knowledge, and it goes a lot more in depth than that. But even when I had the sarcoma removed from my knee, the doctor said, oh, it doesn't matter, because, and I'm so glad you mentioned this. I'm so glad, because I almost forgot. He said, oh, it doesn't matter, because you'll be back in 10 years for a knee surgery anyway. And I said, well, no, I won't. And he just looked at me like, what? And I said, no, I won't.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, yeah, everyone says that. And I'm like, no, I won't. You know, and you've just got to do the body work and ask the questions and do what's best for you, not the cookie cutter element, but you got to do what's best for you. And we're so quick to just have surgery or take that tablet, and that's just the way it's always been done, and not question it. And I'm so glad that a lot more people now are questioning it and seeking out people like you that are professionals in that space, and actually giving the tools and the resources and the love and the care and the compassion that you don't get in that other space by majority of people. And like you said, there's a yin and yang. There's good and bad in everything. And, you know, just in everyday life, to be able to share those resources with people, you're literally creating and saving lives.
Yeah.
And especially financial. People don't want to go in to have surgery and have that financial impact on their families as well. My husband has to go for he actually has to have his knee surgery. That was the last resort. But, you know, there is an impact and there's a trauma around that, because it's the emotional effect on your family and your friends and your support system as well. So it's not just a day surgery.
No. And you spoke about it really well when you're talking about the neurological impact of any trauma. And to even amplify that another level, just getting a piercing is a trauma to the body. Tattoos, I mean, look, anything that any trauma to the body is trauma. And then your body deals with it almost the same way. And then it because we've just got this neurological network that's just going, what's going on? And it's computing all these different things. And then it's sending, and then there's stress, and then there's emotion, and then there's like, oh my God. And there's all these things that are going on, which the painkillers are dumbing down, by the way, because that's why people get a high tolerance to these things, and they have to pop more of them because, you know, now that numbing process is getting harder for them to get. It's just this trauma is a real thing. Trauma is a real deal.
Oh, definitely. And so many levels of it. I think you've brought up so many important facts and so many insights, Ria. And we will be doing a podcast version of this in more in depth. So there's kind of like a part 2 Ria coming up as well. So we'll let our audience know about that. And if you want to connect with Ria, if you're looking for a transformation, if you're looking for a more holistic approach, we will be sharing out Ria's link for you as well. So make sure that you watch all of the shows and upcoming events for the broadcast for Ria as well. And what kind of message would you like to leave the audience on today?
I think that what's appropriate for what we've talked about today is just trust your gut. And as simplistic as that sounds, our body is communicating to us all the time, but we're just not listening to it. So it's up to you to tune in and listen, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Trust yourself, trust your instincts, trust your gut, and that'll lead you and show you the way.
That is very, very sound advice. Thank you so much. Like, share, comment. We will connect you with Ria. She's changing the world. She is a professional in the health and wellness space, and she's creating so much everyday impact and results for people, which is really important. So thank you very much for being our guest today, Ria. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with the DRN One Life audience and sharing those valuable information and insights. And if you have enjoyed today's topic and Ria as our special guest, and you want to see more, make sure that you download the DRN1 app, subscribe, share, and give us some feedback so we can give you more of what you ask for. I want you to have an awesome day. Until next week's show, remember, figure out who you are, do it on purpose, and it's goodbye today from Ria and from the Tracey Lee Cook DRN One Life radio show, Australia's #1 indie radio station. Bye for now.